is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Beatsmith music.
Welcome to the PharoahNFL channel. Let me load this down. It's been a ritual. This is a ritual. I got to play the Raiders chant. Sadly, that was at O.co. When the Raiders just playing Oakland. Hopefully, they could start up back in Vegas. But that being said, we have a great show lined up for you today. Ray's backstage. I'm just gonna bring him in on live. Man. We have, like I said, we have a great show. We have NFL writer Moe Moton. If you haven't even noticed, if you looked at the thumbnail, my guy Ray, man, what's going on?
Yo, what's good, nation?
What's up, man? How you been, bro?
Oh, I've been good. I'm excited to have the dialogue with Mo. Last time we had him on the show, we got to talk about a lot of football, and I'm excited just to dive in. There's been a lot that's happened since last time we got to talk to him. And draft is next week, so conversation's endless.
Oh, man. Hey, man. This is kind of the day that we've been waiting for. Because free agency, it was dry. Sierra Desert dry. I mean, it was nothing going on in free agency. I mean, they had a couple of pickups, but nothing where we, Raider Nation, let's be honest, nothing where we could be excited about. Because if you just look at that last offseason, it's a stark contrast. Like, you got last offseason, you had the Devontae Adams, obviously a trade, Chandler Jones, and then this offseason, our first free agent signing was a safety, Marcus Epps.
Yep.
And hopefully he's a good player for us. No, I'm not trying to knock him, but obviously we were kind of expecting a little bit more, kind of, sort of. But hey, man, like I said, we're gonna have an awesome show today, man. But what are your last minute thoughts on the draft? We're gonna get into the draft talk with NFL writer Moe Moton. I'm gonna send him the link. Do that right now. But what are your thoughts? Let me actually get into the chat too as well. Like, hey, oh my God, my guy Richard Lyon, always in the building. He says now entering the Pharaoh's tomb. Yes, sir. We got Raider Kush, man. Appreciate. Hey, man, if you guys haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Raider Kush. The man does an awesome morning show where he actually works out. I like originality. This dude is working out. He's part of Raider Nation, big time Raider fan. So go ahead and support. Make sure to subscribe. Raider Kush in the building. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the show, man. But what are your thoughts on this upcoming draft, man? We're going to talk about Dave Z later, so save that for later. But
I will.
What's some players that
overall, just to kind of recap, the last couple days, I've been really just cranking out film, watching a lot of prospects, specifically along the defensive interior and the edge rushers. Now, and I'll save a lot of this for the conversation that we have with Mo, but there's a lot of options, and these guys aren't going to be necessarily finished products, right? They're not going to be edge rushers that are going to come in. They're going to play the run really well. They're going to get after the passer, and they're going to be everything that you want. But what this draft has is select players that you want. Select attributes that they have that you're looking to add to your defense, whether that's guys that are really good with their hands and have finesse moves, can bend really well. If you're looking for a solid nose tackle to get in there and stop the run. I mean, there's specific player traits that you can go out there and grab later in the draft. Mm-hmm. And as I dug into these prospects, these are the things that I'm really excited about. Is if the Raiders have a specific player in mind, they're going to be able to go and get that in this draft.
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. It's like I said in previous lives and shows that we've done, like they can go a lot of different directions, and I can't wait to talk to Moe Moton. It's been a while since he's been on. Like the last time I think we spoke to him was I think before the offseason kind of started. So it's going to be interesting to hear his thoughts on how everything unfolded and to look back at some of the things that he said before and see if they actually came true. But yeah, man, I'm super excited. I think I sent him the link, so he's going to be on his way shortly.
Well, what about you? How do you feel about the draft coming up?
No, I'm excited, man. I like I said, best case scenario for me is like if we can get some picks. We can get some top 100 picks, man. Because we need talent, bro. We need talent. I think if they can trade down, that would be the best possibility. Now, the other possibility, and me and Ray this is like, man, like if they do this, I would be super excited if they drafted an Anthony Richardson. But but I'm also looking at the other side too. If they don't draft Anthony Richardson, I want them to draft. I want them to draft. I mean, I want them to trade down so they can get that extra second round pick, maybe extra third round pick, depending on how far they go down. And that's the top 100 picks. The chances of you getting a starter in the top 100, come on, man.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure Raider Nation's tired of me talking about Anthony Richardson, but look, he's the guy that I've got circled at the top of the draft. That's the guy that I want. Is he the guy who's necessarily ready to go right away? No. But if we listen to Dave Ziegler and how he talks and how he addresses, they don't look to be in the top of the draft anytime soon.
Yep.
Again. So if you're wanting to go out and get a quarterback prospect, this is the guy that I want to go get. And I agree with you, Pharoah. If it's not Anthony Richardson, he's the only one that makes sense as a quarterback prospect for me. I think Bryce Young's going to want to start right away. I think CJ Stroud's going to want to get in there and start right away. Even a guy like Will Levis, I think that he's going to want to get in there and start right away. Anthony is just one of those guys that you can stash him for a year or two, and say you even stashed him for 2 years. By the time he starts, he's 22 years old, and he's just as young as the rookies coming out in the next 2 drafts. So he's a pretty remarkable talent in that aspect. So, yeah, I agree with you, Pharoah. If it's not Anthony Richardson, I want to see the Raiders trade back and get some more picks.
Yeah, because I think we still can get a good defensive player. And we'll hear from Mo in a second, and we'll pick his brain, and we'll try to see what the possibilities are, and we'll look at like all the possibilities as far as trades, who they can pick at 7. His thoughts on free agency and what it's been like so far for the Raiders and where the direction of the Raiders are going, because Mo knows his stuff, so we're looking forward to him coming on and talking. But we'll get in the meantime, we'll get into the chat real quick, man. My guy Dirty Los says PharoahNFL Raider Ray, salute fellas. Hey, appreciate it, brother. Hey, if y'all haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Dirty Low, man. He's another fellow Raider content creator, so go ahead and support your fellow Raider content creator, man. It's so easy. Just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the
yeah. And everybody that's in here, go ahead and hit that like button.
Yeah, I got to do the ping sign
button.
My timing is off, but I'm gonna get it right one of these days.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. And then my guy Jack Cannon in the building. He says, my boys Ray and Pharoah, absolutely salute, brother. Hey, appreciate you. Hey, this guy is the one who actually kind of started this whole situation.
Yeah.
He's the one that kind of brought it to my attention, him and OG. So I appreciate Jack Cannon always supporting from day one. So I appreciate you coming through, man.
I wonder how it feels being the guy in the comment section that kind of started, now what, 35 plus live shows and game reactions, and we've just kind of started a
hey man, and it's gonna be even more. Like there's more to come. I'm excited for what the future holds as far as
everybody that's in the chat. Hey, we're doing a live draft show. You're not gonna want to miss it. I mean, we're pulling everything out for that show. I want you guys to tune in, watch the draft with us, get live reactions. You guys have been following us along this entire draft process. Don't miss out on the time when the Raiders actually make that selection and to see if what we've been talking about maybe comes to fruition. So we would love to have you guys here. Mm-hmm. So don't forget draft night. Just even if you have us on in the background while you watch it live, we would love to have you guys.
Yep, and that's going to be on Raider Race channel. Like I said, we always say, we switch off every week. It's a weekly show for the off season. During the season, usually twice a week. So next week, the show, I'm assuming we're going to go live Thursday. That's going to be the Thursday show. I think we can write it down. And I think a lot of people are going to be going live, but hey, you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to be watching the draft and we want to enjoy it with y'all. So whoever shows up, man, we appreciate it. Come through. We can talk football. We can break down whatever the picks are. We're fans of the Raiders, but we also are fans of the NFL. So we want to see how that draft unfolds. But
outside of the Raiders, I'm excited just to see where guys go.
For sure.
I mean, honestly, that's at the top of the draft, even in the mid rounds. There's some guys that I have on my big board. I always love the process, regardless if it's just the Raiders. I just like to see where some of these prospects that I have ranked. I just like to see where they fall and how they fit those teams.
Yeah. Are you watching a fight today?
Yep.
And if you guys don't know, Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis. Who you got?
This is a good one. This is my point. Like boxing for multiple years now, they've struggled getting big time fights. And when big time fights happen, it's a huge buzz, and a lot of people like to tune in. Me personally, I think the winner of this, man, they're just taking that next step into superstardom. I think boxing needs fights like this. They need to put the elite against the elite. As far as who I want to pick, man, I don't even necessarily want to lean a certain direction. I see if I had to lean, I would probably say Tank has the advantage for me.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Ryan Garcia, he's slick. So I don't know. I'm going into this one neutral. I'm not in anybody's corner in this fight. I'm just looking for an exciting fight for boxing. But yeah, I guess if I had to lean in a direction, I'm probably gonna go Tank Davis. But yeah, I'm not counting out Ryan Garcia at all.
Are you a big boxing guy? Because I'm not gonna lie, I got to get into boxing and UFC. Like I feel like that's a whole.
Yeah. So I mean, I follow boxing. It's just like I said earlier. Boxing struggles to put the fights together that the fans want, and it's too far and in between, which is why I think the UFC has kind of stepped into that next. It's the biggest combat sport, so they are always putting on fights that the fans want to see, and they're quick to do it. As to where boxing, they prolong it, and there's a lot of managers involved. There's a lot of athletic commissions involved. There's just a lot. There's a lot of business in boxing, and that's why I like the UFC, because they just they put together the fights that you want to see.
All right, so Mo just hit me right now. He's having a technical issue right now, but he'll be with us in just a second.
It's all good.
But yeah, man, anytime it's a big fight, I think everybody just shows up for a fight, man. It's crazy. Like you could be a fanatic, you could be a big time fan of the sport, or you could be like a casual person watching this. So,
and hey, I know that we cover football, but I always like to give this analogy, right? And let me know if you agree. I mean, you've got a group of soccer players on one field. You've got football going on. You've got guys on the basketball court playing. Mm-hmm. But amongst all those sports, when a fight breaks out, the basketball court stops, the soccer field stops, the football field stops, and everybody tunes in to watch a good fight. I think that's what's polarizing about fighting.
Yeah, and Ja Raider says, salute, enjoying this fight in person, Team Tank.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man, that's dope, man.
That's awesome.
That's dope, man. Hey, man, let us know. You know, the next time we go live, let's say, hey, make sure to come through and let us know how it was in person, because I know boxing or even watching UFC fighting in person. When you watch sports in person, it's like a whole different.
It's different.
It's a way different experience. So
yeah, my wife got me tickets to UFC fight night in Nashville, and she surprised me, and we went down there and we caught the fights. And Anthony Pettis was in the main event. And he knocks out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm just like, just the atmosphere, the environment. It's crazy.
My guy Port Adelaide Raider. I know I just slaughtered that name, man.
Jack Kenna. You got to check out Jack Kenna.
Salute for man. I appreciate you coming through. Okay, we got Jack. He comes through with a $20 super chat just because you're Pharaoh Roy. Hey, man, I appreciate that, man, a lot, man. Jack, like I said, he's been on one of our supporters day one. Like I'm telling you, like he's the one that told us like y'all need to get together, do the show. So I really appreciate the support, appreciate the super chat. But man, we can't wait to talk football. So we're over here talking about the fight. And Ray, I would talk basketball with you, but you don't even watch basketball, man. I don't either. Like I've seen everything as a Laker fan and a Warrior fan. I know y'all gonna kill me in the chat, but I grew up a Laker fan and a Warrior fan, and I seen all the championships. I mean, I seen the Lakers three-peat, the Kobe championships, and then obviously, you know, the Warriors. You know that when I growing up, Warriors were trash, and then now they're like one of the best teams in the NBA. It doesn't look too good. They're down 2-1. But I know you're not a big basketball fan, so
no. But I like to tune in when it's this, you know, when everything's on the line, everybody's talking about it. There's just so many games. There's so much to follow, and I feel like there's so much that it doesn't matter until it matters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. Hey, I've got some best friends I can sit here and talk basketball all day. I stay in my lane, you know. I know Raiders football. I know this roster in and out, and I know fighting. So yeah. I kind of stay in those lanes. Jack, I don't want to look. The internet's forever, Pharaoh. I can't make some takes on here.
Oh yeah. No, I hear you, man. But Jack, man, hey, I appreciate once again for the $20 super chat, man, for real.
Yeah.
And then I got Dre for show says once he said, I'm a believer of the Kings. Hey, when they're up 2-1, I would think that you're probably going to believe the Kings, but I'm not going to take anything away from them. I think Mike Brown, the head coach over there, he's been around for a while, coaching LeBron early on. He came from the San Antonio Spurs coaching staff, and then he's under Steve Kerr for some years, and then he goes from the Warriors. He took a page out of their playbook, and he's doing big things with the Kings as a coach. And man, they look good. When I watched the game, when I watching the Warriors and Kings play, I was like, man, like they're for real. Deep team led by the point guard, man. But look, man, hey, I want to talk football, man. I just can't wait. Don't get it twisted. We have things to talk about. I'm just saving it right now. I'm just saving it so we don't be repetitive and bring up some of these topics again when Mo comes in, because we're gonna be asking him a lot of questions.
We've got a lot of good things to talk about.
He said, Bobby, oh, you taking it way back. Bobby Jackson off the bench. Hey, all I know is the Lakers three-peat had something to say about that, man. Hey, I know it hurts, man. I know it hurts when I say that, man, but okay, that's what's up, man. Hey, you know, hey, I respect. Been a Kings fan since Mike Bibby, C-Web Day. Those are great teams, man. Probably one of the greatest teams that never won a championship. And you probably could say that one series against the Lakers could have went the Kings' way, but you know, that's a whole different conversation for another day, man. Yeah, he even says it's been rough, man. It's been rough, but look, we got some questions. We see these questions about the Raiders. I want Tyree Wilson at 7. I know someone brought up Devon Witherspoon. We're gonna bring him up. We're gonna talk about that as well. Jack Kenneth talks about it. Hey, as a 916 NorCal guy, like the beam. Hey, Jack, man, are you're an A's fan? I know you're an A's fan. Hey, I don't know how you're an A's fan. I used to be an A's fan. Look, past tense, because the ownership just sucks. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The A's ownership sucks. And if you guys don't know, the A's have recently purchased some land, pretty much implying that they're pretty much heading out the door out of Oakland, and they're heading to Las Vegas. And yeah, man, it's tough for Oakland, man. Oakland sports, man. The Warriors went to San Francisco. The Raiders went to, I don't know if you've seen the comment by Mark Davis, Ray. He said something about how like the reason why the Raiders didn't stay was because of how the A's handled the whole situation.
Yeah,
by signing a 10-year lease and making it hard for them to stay. But you know, politics is crazy, man. Even in sports. But then we got Owen T6, man. He got to let everybody know Lakers. I feel you, man. Hey, I'm watching Lakers as well. I know they played today, right? During the fight, it might be at some point in the fight. So I'm going to be watching it somewhere. So they're going to be having a fight on and the game on. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. I think the Warriors, I don't know if the Warriors play today. They might play tomorrow. I don't know. But my guy JB, Salute Nation, appreciate you coming through, man. Hey, we're gonna have a great show, man. Moe Moton is gonna join us. He's having some technical issues, but as soon as he comes on, we're gonna get to the Raider talk. We're gonna be talking about the draft. We're gonna be talking about the possible scenarios. It's 1 week, one week remaining. I mean, next Thursday is
less than a week.
Exactly, less than a week. Yeah. And so we're gonna be talking about everything, including asking him questions about what he thought about the offseason. Because last time we had him on, you know,
I've got the big board pulled up. I'm telling you, like when we get to discuss some of these prospects, specifically interior and edge, I'm just, I love this time of year. We got. There's so many prospects to look at, and I like this. The more that I sunk my teeth into this draft, it's just the Raiders have so many opportunities to go out there and get some solid football players.
Man, I really want to get into some stuff, but like
I know I'm gonna save it. I'm
gonna save it real quick, but let me actually see what's going on. Hold on. Hold on 1 second.
Man. Yeah. Hey, now that I'm looking at these prospects, I'm like, no, I'm not too. I mean, like I said, if it's not Anthony Richardson, I want to trade back because there's a lot of these guys that they're going to change the foundation of this defense. The closer we get to the draft, the more like I'm just like reserving my feelings, but I'm super excited at the same time.
Yeah,
because I have a feeling Dave is probably going to knock this out of the park.
All right, let's see. So he's having some real technical issues with he's having issues with his mic. But hold on 1 second.
Yeah, you guys, everybody that's in the building, make sure that you guys smash the like button. Shoot this video up the algorithm. We know that the fights are on tonight, but man, let other Raider fans find out where you guys are at tonight. Raider Ray, PharoahNFL. Come tune in. We got Moe Moton coming on. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Draft is less than a week away. this is what we've been waiting for. So you don't want to miss this discussion. And thank you to everybody that is pulled up in here.
Yeah, man. We'll get into it in just a second. I'm just waiting to hear back from Mo. Let's see.
Should I answer Sean Johnson's question or no?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's get into it, man. We don't want to let the people waiting. Mo's dealing with some technical issues, so we can get the conversation started.
Okay.
And you said Sean had a question. He said, so if we took CJ Stroud, would you be disappointed if not AR-15? Now, I wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, you can answer this, Ray, as well, but I wouldn't be disappointed at all, man.
I would be disappointed if we got CJ Stroud. That's not to say that CJ Stroud's not a good ball player. That's not to say that he has the capability to be a good quarterback at the next level. I really, with all the rumors coming out that the Raiders had Bryce Young and CJ Stroud on the board, and that's it, which I don't necessarily buy at all. And I've got my reasons, and we can maybe get into that later. But specifically about CJ Stroud, look, when I sit there and watch the film, the guy has 2 NFL tackles, and he's got an NFL center who's probably going to be taken in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah.
If you want another, and I hate to say this, I hate to do this to CJ because I don't want to disrespect him, but if you want a quarterback that's going to hold on to the football, much like Derek Carr did in the pocket, CJ Stroud is very similar with that. He holds on to the ball for a really, really long time, and with all that time and the options that he had at receiver, there was a lot of checkdowns on his film. Outside of the Georgia game, the Georgia game was remarkable. If I was getting that CJ Stroud for 17 weeks, of course, I would love to get the CJ Stroud pick.
Yeah.
The problem is that isn't the sample size that was on tape.
Yeah. And his weaknesses are what we kind of complained about Carr a little bit.
Yeah. And if you're going to go in a new direction, go in a different direction. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, man, look, is that good to say that I would hate the pick, Sean? I wouldn't hate the pick. But to me, the only person that makes sense as a quarterback prospect is Anthony. I kind of said it at the beginning of the show. Bryce Young is going to start right away. CJ Stroud's going to want to start right away. You go get Young, or you go get CJ Stroud, and you throw him in here with Jimmy Garoppolo. It just doesn't make sense for me. And I would let Jimmy remain the starter if I go out and get Anthony Richardson. And look, when Jimmy Garoppolo goes down, and he might go down at some point this season, then let Anthony get some games under his belt. But as far as CJ Stroud, man, I don't know. I'm not as high on him as other people are, but that's just my opinion.
All right, so we got some not some good news. Mo is having some technical issues, and it's affecting him going live. So you know what? The show must go on. So we're gonna make it work. We already have some topics lined up, so we're gonna get into the Raider talk. We got to give the people what they want at the end of the day. So let's get into it, man. Hey, Sean Johnson, I appreciate the question. Now I get where you come from, and this is what my thing with CJ Stroud, or early on, I kind of told you this before. I was like I was telling you, like, his ceiling is, when you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and a guy like CJ Stroud comes along, do you think that he's going to be better? I'm not sure if I can answer that question with confidence. If we get that Georgia game, CJ Stroud, I'll be super, super excited, man.
And here's the thing. It's like, look at the offense that he was put on, offensive line specifically. You look at the receiving options. Marvin Harrison Jr. That alone. You're talking about a top 5 pick next year, and you're talking about an all-pro NFL player at collegiate level. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. There's weapons on that roster, and for me, look, he has the statistics, so I don't want people to go out there and pull out the statistics and the touchdowns. He has all those things, and he's playing in a dominant conference. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just like you said, Pharoah, he has a ceiling, and I don't necessarily like it. I don't like the things that he struggles with. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to take a quarterback and have to settle with the things that they struggle with, I'll take the short accuracy deficiencies that Anthony Richardson has, and I'll bank on the high end upside, and I'll bank on the low floor of this guy's going to come in and be an immediate threat on the ground and be a dual threat quarterback right away. But yeah, I just if CJ's the pick, CJ's the pick. I won't be too ecstatic, but I won't be too mad at it either.
Yeah, and that's my thing. I would rather, if the Raiders are going to get a quarterback, I'd rather get a quarterback where they feel like he could develop into a top 10, top five quarterback. I mean, it is. If we were in any other division, maybe, but we're in the division with Patrick Mahomes, man. Like, you gotta shoot for the moon. You gotta at least try and see if you can develop a player to possibly be better, or as just as good as Patrick Mahomes.
Mo had a guest on his show, and he was talking about quarterbacks are going to be taken in, and if you take a shot on an Anthony Richardson and you miss, you only set your franchise back if you ride with Anthony Richardson, and if you justify him as being a bad pick and say in 1 to 2 years you're like, okay, this guy isn't what we thought, he's not projecting, and he's not put in the work to be that next level quarterback. You go out there and you draft another quarterback. You know, it's going to be a common trend in the National Football League where you're going to start seeing teams take quarterbacks even if they have their franchise guy because the value of the position. And especially Josh McDaniels being a New England Patriot guy. You know, even when they had Tom Brady, they were looking for quarterbacks. They were not afraid to draft quarterbacks. They weren't afraid to get guys in that room. And then when they were ready, they would ship them off and get draft capital for it. So I'm not mad at having Jimmy Garoppolo and then going and getting an Anthony. I'm not mad at that at all. So, and if Anthony doesn't work out, Anthony doesn't work out. But I think he's too intriguing of a prospect to not take the shot on.
And let's get into it, man. Hey, recently, if you guys haven't heard, Dave Z talked to the media. His GMs around this time of year usually have like a pre-draft, presser where they talk about what they might do and what they possibly, something to give us fans something to think about when we before heading into the draft. And I have a sound bite, if I can just pull it up. And this is Dave Z's thoughts when he thinks about making a pick just in the draft in general. And I want to hear everybody's thoughts about this.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last year. We're focused on taking the best player available. I think, where our roster's at, and our want to improve competition at every position. And that leaves us open to that. Now, I would also say, and I would caveat that by saying when you talk about best available player, there's a lot of different things that encompass that. It's not just tape. And so it's the best fit for the Raiders. And there's different things that go into that, whether it's, the football intelligence piece, football character. There's different things that go into that, that makes that player the best available player for each individual organization. I think that sometimes can get lost. And so that's what it means for us, the best available player that's the best player for the Raiders organization and fits what we're looking for. And we're going to stay true to that process and stay open to that.
So what did you think? I mean, he kept it all the way real because we always hear teams say, "Oh, we're going to take the best player available." But when the draft comes, we see what the Raiders have done in the past. They'll pick Damon Arnett or Alex Leatherwood. Like those guys clearly were not the best players on the field. I mean, just look at like some of the players that went ahead of them and how they're successful, and some of these guys are not even in the NFL. How do you feel about that comment by Dave Z?
So I was going to save this for Mo, but we're just going to talk about it. Dave Ziegler has been a very, very open general manager. I remember last year when free agency was looming and he said, look, we're going to be extremely aggressive in free agency. Day one opens up. They don't do much. Then boom, the news drops that they trade for Devontae Adams. They go get a Chandler Jones and they start making all these splashes and these big time signings. They're extending Derek Carr, extending Hunter, extending Darren Waller. And like, it was just a completely different type of offseason than what we experienced this year. And this year, he told us out front in free agency, look, we're not going to go spend a ton of money.
Hey, not to cut you off. Oh, man. Hey, Dave.
I know what that means.
Hey, Mo just likes to play with people's emotions, man. He over here saying that he's going to, he can make it and all that. But obviously, he's dealing with some technical issues. But we have him backstage. Let's bring him on. Let's not waste any time. Man, my guy, Moe Moton, NFL writer. Let me bring him on. Let me give him a I gotta give him. Last time I didn't give him the right
introduction.
Yeah, I gotta give him the right.
I got a new nickname for Mo too.
We'll talk about it. My guy Mo. Hey, he gets the Raiders chant he gets the Raider chat because he told us that he grew up a Raider fan. You know what I mean? Even though we should trust his opinion, he keeps it all the way 100. He doesn't lean left or right. He just keeps it solid as far as his opinions, man. But hey, Mo, what was going on, man, with your mic, man? What's up, man?
Man, technical difficulties out here in New York. You know, when the Knicks start winning, things get crazy on this side of town. So you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But my apologies for being late to the
Nah,
show.
you're good,
I was gonna say I owe you guys one, but I got things going. I'm here now, so whatever you got, I'm here for you guys. How much time you need since I was late, you got me.
Oh no, it's all good, man. We appreciate you even coming on, man. So for you, like when you're solid in my book. I know Ray feels the same way, but we're just excited to talk Raider football. Last time we spoke to you, we were telling the chat as well. We're telling them like it was before the offseason began, and we're kind of talking about like the different possibilities at quarterback. We're all talking about Tom Brady. It looks like Tom Brady is going to be the quarterback. Obviously, he's retired. And then free agency has happened. So, like, what are your thoughts about the offseason so far up until this point?
Look, I know a lot of Raider fans are panicking because Raiders signed a bunch of former Patriots. You're bringing Jimmy Garoppolo, who I wasn't a big fan of as their next Raiders quarterback. You get rid of Derek Carr. As we all know, a lot of fans of Derek Carr in Raider Nation, even though he's been polarizing, a lot of people still didn't want to see him go. They wanted to see him get to year 10. So a lot of people saying panic mode. And I'm saying, yes, while it is a rebuild, because in my definition, rebuild is when you get rid of the quarterback, you have to have a defensive overhaul. Basically, half of your roster has to be flipped to find starters. That's a rebuild. Yep. Even if you still have the same head coach and general manager from the previous year, because I know a lot of people associate rebuild with new head coach, new general manager, new QB. But in this situation, what the Raiders did, they came in, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler came in thinking they could win. Why else would you bring in Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones and sign a bunch of guys to extensions like Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow? Yep. Of course, they gave a new contract to Derek Carr with an out clause in it, but they gave out extensions and brought in veteran players, which lets you know they were ready to compete. You come out with 6-11, you have to pivot, change your plans. So as I said, this is a rebuild, and they're putting a lot of their eggs, or most of their eggs, into the draft, because if you look at free agency, not a lot of big contracts handed out except for maybe the quarterback, and even Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is relatively modest compared to the quarterback market. He's not getting $40 million, so they weren't handing out big contracts. So it's very clear to me that they're trying to rebuild through the draft, and this draft, to me, in my opinion, is just as important, if not more, than the 2019 draft, which was supposed to be the foundation of the previous regime's rebuild.
Yeah, and you know what it is too. I think the Raiders' expectations, like the fan base, they've seen like I've always said this, like we've seen everything. We've seen everything, and it's been a while since we won. So for the Raiders to pivot like that, it's kind of like that groan happens. Like, oh my God, like really, here we go again. Oh, you guys are focus on the draft. Oh, you guys need to get your own players. But no, I get it 100%. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, it didn't work. Usually when new regimes come in, they like to get rid of their players as soon as possible. Look at what John Gruden came in. He got rid of Khalil Mack. He got rid of Amari Cooper. They went 4-12. You know, the rest is history. He was allowed time to build, and I think that's what Mark Davis is going to do with the Raiders. But it's going to be interesting. Like this draft right now is going to be huge, man. It's going to be huge. But before you came on, though, we were talking about Dave Z, and if we can just play this clip, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Let me just play it real quick. Yeah.
We talked about it last year. We're focused on taking the best player available. I think where our roster's at, and our want to improve competition at every position, and that leaves us open to that. Now, I would also say, and I would caveat that by saying when you talk about best available player, there's a lot of different things that encompass that. It's not just tape. And so it's the best fit for the Raiders. And there's different things that go into that, whether it's, the football intelligence piece, football character. There's different things that go into that makes that player the best available player for each individual organization. I think that sometimes can get lost. And so that's what it means for us, the best available player, that's the best player for the Raiders organization and fits what we're looking for. And we're going to stay true to that process and stay open to that.
So what are your thoughts on that comment? Because he was asked pretty much his thought process when he drafts a player. Like, is he going for best player available? Need? Do you believe in what he's trying to say?
I like that he went through what he in his mind what best player available means, because if you go on Twitter anytime and anyone says BPA, they make it sound so easy, like
Right.
yeah, Bloop, just turn on, draft comes on, just pick top player at the top of your board. It's just that easy. It's not that easy.
Mm-hmm.
As he mentioned, it's about fit in the locker room, fit with the team, and believe it or not, they do consider a roster need. So I always use this as an example, but do you think the Rams are going to draft a defensive tackle with the 5th overall pick knowing they have Aaron Donald? Probably not. So roster need does factor into this. So to his point, and I guess this leads me to our discussion today, if I were to be a betting man right now and say BPA for the Raiders when they're on the clock at 7, assuming they don't trade up, it's probably going to be probably going to be a cornerback for their secondary, because unless Jalen Carter is available, and I know Vic Tafur wrote a piece saying that Jalen Carter was off their board, but maybe they consider it after meeting with him, because you meet with a guy, he could change your mind. Maybe you have some preconceived notions and he cleared some things up for you. Unless there's that factor of Jalen Carter being on the board and they're okay with it, it's definitely going to be a cornerback, because if you look at the Raiders roster, that position needs a lead playmaker. And to me, there are no linebackers in this draft worth a first-round pick, especially a top 10 pick. Defensive, as I said, Jalen Carter and the rest of the field when it comes to defensive tackle. Maybe you get a quarterback. I was on the show with you guys and I said I wouldn't take Anthony Richardson at 7. I think if I'm trading back, I would take him in the middle of the first round, but at 7, a little bit too high for me. So if you're looking at it from a BPA standpoint, to me, it has to be a cornerback at 7.
Do you think Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez, do you think that you actually have to take them at 7, or could you actually move back to say that 10, 11, 12 range and still grab one of those two guys?
I think you have to take them at 7.
Oh, really?
Only because I think the Detroit Lions, and this is part of the draft evaluation process, the draft process that people overlook. You also have to know, what are the teams before me? What might they do? Because what they might do could affect my pick and who's unavailable for me. So I think the Lions are going to take a cornerback. They traded Jeff Okudah to the Falcons. To me, that says we like a cornerback at the top of this class, and we're going to get a cornerback. So they could either take Devin Witherspoon or Gonzalez. So my thinking is, by the time the Raiders get on the board, they're probably taking the second cornerback off the board, which means that if you're trading back to, let's say, 12 to 16, there are teams behind you, like the Philadelphia Eagles, who may take a cornerback. I know they have Darius Slay and James Bradbury, but both those guys are 30 years and older. So you have to look at it from the standpoint of, if you like one of those guys, Gonzalez or Witherspoon, and they're available for you at 7, you better take them, because there are teams behind you that could swipe one of those guys. So, but I will say really quick, my CB2 in this draft is Joey Porter Jr. And I said this on Twitter last night. I said I would be okay with the Raiders trading back in the teens, maybe 12 even, and taking Joey Porter Jr. because
who's your CB1?
My CB1 is Devin Witherspoon.
Okay.
I think a lot of people have noted that for me, but Joey Porter Jr. is my number 2. But I would take Christian Gonzalez at 7 simply because he's not going to be available at 12 or 13. I think he's going to come off the board before Joey Porter Jr. But like I said, if I'm trading back, JPJ is my pick.
I wanted to get your opinion on Dave Ziegler, because before you hopped on, I was just getting into it and unpacking it. But man, since he's taken over as the Raiders general manager, I feel like he's been a very open and honest general manager. You know, last year in free agency, he said, look, we're going to be very aggressive. Day one opens up, nothing happens. Then boom, they go and trade for Devontae. They go get Chandler. They re-sign Derek. They re-sign Hunter. They re-sign Darren. Now into this offseason, he was saying, you know, look, we're going to go build this roster with depth. They go in free agency, and they don't make any of those big, sexy signings. You know, they go get a bunch of depth. They address almost every level of the football team. And now in the draft, I feel like he's been very open and honest, even when it comes down to player evaluations. Just in his last press conference, do you think, Dave Ziegler, that this could actually benefit the Raiders with him just being so open and honest about what direction he's moving in, that when he actually has to bluff, the NFL buys into it?
I can buy into that, but I can also say, I remember when Mark Davis made a comment about Dave Ziegler being inexperienced and basically not know what he's doing, and Twitter kind of went crazy and said, "Oh, how could you say that? You're saying he doesn't know what he's doing? Oh, panic mode." But I think as time goes on, assuming Dave Ziegler has another year, and I think he will, I think he'll become more and more. I think he'll become less and less transparent because at GM, you start to learn some things like maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe I shouldn't put that out there to the public. Maybe I shouldn't put that out there to the media because other teams, other GMs, other front office executives are listening to this. So I think part of that is him being new to the general manager game and just being himself. Maybe he's just a transparent person away from this. Because remember, he said he was a guidance counselor before this. And sometimes being a guidance counselor, you have to be a psychologist and you kind of have to be open to share some of the things that you went through to relate to your clients. I know I'm going deep philosophical here, but
no, it's true. You got to unpack it.
I think that part of it, him being a new GM, a new soul GM, not under the Bill Belichick tree, is that he's being himself, and being a transparent person is part of who he is as a person, as a human being.
Because he and Mike Mayock and John Gruden, like it's complete opposite. Like they went way left with it, right? You never knew what they were gonna do. And it's to where Dave Ziegler, I just feel like for me personally, he's been very open about it. So I do like that take. I like that. Is he being naive? But I just think Dave Z is just a smart guy. Like, could he use this to his advantage of eventually, and maybe this could be a tool in his asset as a general manager?
What I will say is the art of being a general manager or even a head coach is saying a lot without saying too much.
Exactly.
And I think some of the things that he is transparent about are things that we can kind of pick up off of just comments, just looking at the direction of the team, the roster, and some of the moves that we made, that he made. Some of those things you can kind of pick up and understand where he's coming from. If he were to say, it wouldn't come off as like a shocker. Now, I don't think he's tipping off any secrets about what the Raiders may do, because remember, who saw the Chandler Jones move coming? Who saw the Devontae Adams move coming? So the art of saying a lot and saying actually very little is something that I think can work in his favor, yes.
That being said, I feel like it's very interesting where you said that the Raiders should go corner in the draft. And looking back at the presser, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the full presser of Dave Z. One of the questions he got was what he looked for in a cornerback. And I was thinking about who he was describing in the draft. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how, like, yeah, you would need a cornerback that could stop the run, especially on the outside. And I was like, that fits a corner in this draft. And in your eyes, the number one corner in the draft in Devon Witherspoon. So it's very interesting, you know.
Which he's a blue chip type of player. I mean, if you get Devon Witherspoon in the back end of that secondary, his ability, he's a tone setter, he's a ball hawk. I mean, it's been a long time since the Raiders have had a corner like Witherspoon.
Here's my thing, because there have been a lot of debates about Witherspoon or Gonzalez, and I'll say this, right? And I think a lot of people fall into this trap of falling in love with testing numbers. Mm-hmm. Oh, he ran a 4.3 or 4.4 40. He, 10-foot 5-inch broad jump, this at the long jump. He did this in the 3-cone drill. There are things that a football player does on the field that cannot be measured at the combine. Devon Witherspoon is a very instinctive cornerback. You can't measure that with numbers. You just have to turn on the film and look at it. And I think that's where he has the edge over a lot of guys. And he is physical in the run game. And that's what I like about him. I like a more physical cornerback. I'm an old school guy. I grew up watching football in the 90s. So I get the rules have changed, but I prefer, and this is why I like Joey Porter Jr. I'm not saying that Gonzalez is soft or anything, or he's not willing to stick his nose in there and make a tackle. But what I'm saying is that when you have that plus in a cornerback, that's just added, motivation to pick him at 6 or 7. If you're the Lions at 6 and Raiders at 7. So again, I could see Devon Witherspoon being the first cornerback off the board because he has that added plus on his resume.
I will say this: both of their film is remarkable what they did last year, mm-hmm. right? And you were alluding to, the size of the measurables. I think Witherspoon just has. You get caught up in those measurables, and when you turn on the film, he just does things that just jump off. It fires you up, right? You're almost ready to go throw pads on, grab a helmet, and go play with them.
Right.
Christian Gonzalez is one of those guys. Like if you're playing Madden, this is the guy you're going to draft. He's the 6 foot plus, mm-hmm. smooth hips, smooth transitions. Mm-hmm. He's that type of guy. As to where Devon Witherspoon, he's the ball player. But I say this: at 7, both of these guys have only put 1 year of film out at this type of level. Christian Gonzalez was a transfer to Oregon, and this was the year he really put it together. And same with Devon Witherspoon. You go back to, the 2021 tape. It's just not the same. They're both 2 different players this year. Does that give you cause of concern at 7? Because let's be honest, A top 10 pick is a very, very rich pick. Are you comfortable with 1 year of production out of these guys? Or are you comfortable with the Raiders maybe moving back and maybe collecting another maybe second round pick or maybe another top 100 pick if they move back a little bit?
I'm actually comfortable with Witherspoon. And I know a lot of guys, and I would say a lot of guys either have 1 year of standout production or 2 years of standout production, a lot of positions, simply because they're playing behind other players who are NFL players or earlier round picks. So I get it. But when you look at the film, I think you have to trust the progression and say, okay, where was he 2021? Where was he 2022? And where could he be in 2023 in our system? And I think that's where you make your decision at, because again, you're not taking the player for what he is or what he was the previous year. You're taking the player for what he could be and what you see in him in your system. So again, I think with Devin Witherspoon, he just fits for me. And as you know, Patrick Graham is a man coverage guy. I know Christian Gonzalez can cover man too, but to me, Devin Witherspoon is just a tick higher on that platform. And again, this is why I also like Joey Porter Jr., simply because of that man coverage ability. And I know you're going to have to play some zone too, but again, Witherspoon to me, the complete product, the guy that's going to give you that fire on the back end, the guy that's going to get guys stirred up on the back end when the chips are down, when Patrick Mahomes is moving the ball, dinking and dunking down the field. Devin Witherspoon is going to be that guy to stop the run and say, look, guys, we got to make a stop here. He's going to bring that fire, because it can't be Max Crosby by himself. Can't be the only fiery guy on that defense. You need a bunch of guys pulling in the same direction, giving you that spark. And I think Devin Witherspoon brings that.
Speaking of fiery guys, if you're sitting and you only have to give up a 4th round draft pick, how do you feel about the Raiders going out and pursuing Patrick Queen?
I've been maybe the president of the trade for Patrick Queen movement. I've been shouting this for months that and Raider fans are saying, you're crazy if you think the Ravens are going to give up Patrick Queen after the year he had last year. And I say, you have to look at the inside linebacker market. Teams are not paying 2 off-ball linebackers big money. They've already traded for Roquan Smith and gave him a 5-year, $100 million extension. So chances are Patrick Queen is not going to get another contract from them. So they have to make a decision. Okay, let's dump this guy now, get something for him, because we're probably not going to sign him to a second contract. So if I'm the Raiders, I pick up the phone and say, what do you want for Patrick Queen? Because we're interested.
What would he be worth in a trade?
I think he would be worth the 3rd or 4th round pick. Like Ray said, probably a 4th round pick. Because the position, again, it's a low premium position. I get, though, that he's coming off his best year and you're getting him on a rookie contract. So it's kind of doing you a favor, giving you a guy who's coming off his best year on a rookie contract. So you may have to, cough up a 3rd rounder. Now, thankfully, the Raiders have 2 because they gave up Darren Waller to the Giants and got 1. So that 100th pick, which is really a compensatory pick, I would trade that for Patrick Quinn.
Does he come with a new contract? If he, how it goes. Like when a player goes to a new team, sometimes they want a new contract. Is that a possibility with him?
Well, first I would exercise his 5th-year option, right? Because he has that, because he's a former 1st-round pick, and I say, look, I understand the year you had. Play out this year, we will reward you, but we need you to play out this year. We need to see you do it again. We need to see some consistency before we give you a new deal.
His 5th year's $13.5 million. Are you comfortable with that?
Definitely comfortable with that, because if you've seen the Raiders linebacker room,
have
you seen that depth chart?
He would be the best linebacker we've had in years.
I'm just saying, if you don't want to handcuff yourself to have to pick up a linebacker in the 2nd or 3rd round, or Jack Campbell or Drew Sanders, whatever flavor you like, get a veteran cornerback who can give you some flexibility, because that's what free agency partially is for, is to give you that flexibility when you go into the draft, so you don't have to pick this position here. You don't have to pick this position here. You got veteran guys we can say, okay, maybe we pass on the guy here and we can address it, in the 2nd or 3rd round. So again, on draft day, trades go down on draft day during the 1st, 2nd round. I'll be calling the Ravens still and saying, hey, we're interested in Patrick Queen.
I think, and just to segue into, the next topic here, possible Raider draft trades. And I think it really depends on if the Raiders are able to trade down, possibly, and they're able to get a couple of top 100 picks, then maybe trading for Patrick Queen becomes possible, or it doesn't really become a big need, because now they can actually get maybe a linebacker and another defensive player because they have another top 100 pick. Do you think that's a possibility for the Raiders to actually trade down, and what players would have to be on the board? Because I'm trying to think, like, usually when teams are trading up, it's most likely for a quarterback. So it's, like a guy like Anthony Richardson might be on the board. A guy like I don't think CJ Stroud is going to be on the board at number 7. Obviously, the Raiders are probably going to hop all over that, but maybe the guy that likes to eat mayonnaise with his coffee.
Stop it! Stop it! He's not a Raider.
On my draft board. He's on my draft board for sure. But
Man,
go ahead.
Really quick though, Will Levis is actually now favored to go number 2 overall. But
I know. I was going to get your opinion on that. That's
Number
wild.
2 to the
That's
Texans.
wild. Whoever made those odds needs to go put mayonnaise in their coffee.
Man,
it's just so weird because it started off as the Texans are definitely going cornerback. It's CJ Stroud. Then it went to they got D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco. He's the defensive coordinator. Maybe they take Will Anderson because he favors that side of the ball. Now maybe it's Will Levis, and I'm like, I'm not buying. I'm just not buying a lot of stuff because you guys know how this works. This time of year, a lot of smoke is out there. I think they're probably gonna go with CJ Stroud at number 2. Now, if they don't, I would hop on that and trade.
You think he's really the pick, or could you see D'Amico Ryans go out and get one of his defensive players?
I think CJ is going to be the pick, and if it isn't CJ, then it may be a trade down. Simply because if I'm Houston, right, I can't trot Davis Mills out there for another season. I can't do it. Now, the Houston Texans may feel like they could trade back to get Will Levis, but to me, I think that's risky because what if another team trades up for him? So you don't know how many trades are going to go down before you get on the clock again. So unless the Texans are moving down like 1 or 2 spots to get Will Levis, I just don't see Will Levis being the pick there. I just think it's still going to be CJ Stroud. I think the odds have been playing with us a little bit. I think the Texans have been playing with us a little bit, sending out some smoke, and I think it's going to be CJ Stroud.
I believe a defensive player would go before a Will Levis a pick. I mean, just because D'Amico Ryans' defensive background, he wants to build a bully out there. He's a defensive minded coach. So that would make way more sense than Will Levis, where, we didn't hear anything about him being the number 2 pick until smoke season, obviously. That's that time of the year. It's still that time of the year. Until the draft happens, it's still smoke season, y'all.
The Texans are in a weird trade spot, though, right? Because the teams that you would look in a few picks back is Indianapolis, and obviously, let's be honest, you don't necessarily see that many division trades going on. Arizona is one of those teams that they could either take a Tyree Wilson or best defensive player available, or they could be open for a trade up. So the Texans trade opportunities, it's kind of weird, right? Like, would you agree or no?
I would agree. And I said the only way they move back and still feel like they can get Levis with confidence is just say they move back with Detroit or Seattle. But why would Detroit or Seattle move up to 2? Unless they're taking a quarterback. And I don't think either of those teams would move up to take a quarterback because they have at least guys they believe in right now. Jared Goff in Detroit, Geno Smith in Seattle. I think if a quarterback drops them, they'll consider it. But I don't see how Houston moves back and still thinks that we're definitely going to get Will Levis wherever we move back because, as I said, a team could move up. So that's why I said Houston either takes CJ Stroud there or, as Pharoah said, takes Will Anderson Jr. I don't think it will be Tyree Wilson. I know Peter King wrote that maybe Tyree Wilson comes off the board before Will Levis. Whoever takes Tyree Wilson before Will Anderson needs to be fired immediately. Immediately. Fired.
Since we're talking about like number 2 pick, do you see that as a possible trade up for the Raiders if it's there? Because the Raiders front office is connected to the Texans front office. I believe they have their GM is connected to the Patriots. They got a good relationship, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So that's a possibility as well. Do you see that happening? I mean, in my eyes, I think so, but I want to hear from you.
Nick Caserio being the GM of the Texans. Dave Ziegler coming from New England. Nick Caserio was in New England with Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. It's possible, and a lot of people have asked this question. Do the Raiders move up to 2 or 3 for a quarterback? And I think it's definitely possible with CJ Stroud, starts to not slip a little bit, but if he's there on the board, I think the Raiders at least make the call. Now, it all boils down to what the team wants. What do the Texans want from a team moving up? Because they may ask for the house, and the Raiders will say, well, we're not giving that up. We like CJ Stroud, but we don't love him like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it all matters what the Texans will be asking for, because that, the proposal, the offer makes or breaks the deal there. So if they're not asking for the house and the Raiders are comfortable with it and they do move up to number 2 to take CJ Stroud, I'm fine with it. Now, some fans will push back on me and say, what about the defense? What about the defense? And I prepared for this conversation today because I will ask you guys, would you rather have a quarterback you think could be the guy for the next 10 to 15 years and have a bad defense that you have to build up over time? Or would you rather go into a season with a good defense and not knowing who your quarterback is going to be for the long-term future?
Can I take this one, Pharaoh?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, Mo, please push back. This is going to be a good dialogue because I know you're not an AR-15 guy. But look, at number 2 for CJ Stroud for me, you go and get Jimmy Garoppolo, and I know Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to move the needle whether you're going to go get a franchise guy or not. But the quarterback that makes sense for me, if I'm looking at it from a standpoint of Bryce Young wants to start right away. Okay, CJ is going to want to start right away. You don't move up to 2 to just sit CJ. Now, Will Levis, he'll probably want to go start wherever he's going to go play. But Anthony Richardson is sitting there, and he's 20 years old. And this guy has the traits that if he does sit for a year or two, you're banking on high end. And with a guy like Patrick Mahomes in your division, Anthony gives you that athletic quarterback, keeps his eyes downfield, can push the ball. And I just think when the pocket starts to break down, he excels. Now, when you're looking at upside, I think Anthony Richardson has that, and you can sit him, start Jimmy Garoppolo, and potentially get your future franchise guy. And by the time he's starting, he's 22 years old, and he's the age of the quarterbacks coming out even in the next 2 drafts. So to me, if I'm sitting there and I'm going to take a quarterback and I don't feel pressured to start him right away, if Richardson were to fall to 7, I'm okay with them grabbing him just based off of what he can bring to the National Football League. CJ Stroud, to me, I feel like he has the NFL tackles, right? He's got Paris Johnson. He's got a starting NFL center. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr. He's got Jackson Smith and Jigba. And when you watch his film, he just sits in the pocket. And we just moved on from a quarterback in Derek Carr who held on to the football for so long, right? And when I watch tape of CJ likes to hang on to that football. And he does a lot of checkdowns, even with the amount of talent that he has outside of the Georgia game. Now, if I was getting CJ from the Georgia game for 17 weeks, I love it. Trade up, go get your guy. But if you're giving me CJ Stroud that I've seen for, 8 to 10 weeks, I don't know.
I hear you. And I
Shots fired, man. He's coming for you, man. He's coming for you.
No, this is gonna be good because I've heard that side of the debate and I totally get it. I'm just glad that he didn't go with the Ohio State quarterbacks are no good. So
no. I don't judge the helmet. I judge.
Thank you. Yeah. I can appreciate that. He has a legit argument. He's watched the film. He understands what CJ Stroud does in the pocket, and he has concerns there. Not concerns, but some reservations versus a more high upside quarterback Anthony Richardson. I get it, but I'll start by saying that I'm not necessarily down on Anthony Richardson. I just wouldn't. I would pause to take him at 7. It depends on who's available. If Jalen Carter is not there, and for some reason the Cardinals take a cornerback, and then the Lions take a cornerback. So you're talking about Jalen Carter off the board, Will Anderson off the board, your top two cornerbacks off the board. I would take Anthony Richardson, and I've said this in other places that I'm not necessarily down on him. He's just not my first, second, or third choice at 7. But I totally get your argument there, and I'll even bolster your argument that Anthony Richardson started that season throwing 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Then I believe he threw 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in his last 4 games. So his first 8 games, 7-7, last 4, 10-2. So progression is there. Right. I'm fine with Anthony Richardson if top 2 cornerbacks aren't on the board. But I will say for the CJ Stroud part of this, I just think CJ Stroud is a better fit for what Josh McDaniels wants. And I hate to get into right now because I think what Josh McDaniels wants is a guy who's going to sit in the pocket, a guy who's willing to check down the ball, and a guy who's not going to do too much improvisation. And it's not to say that he would diminish Anthony Richardson or what he does, but part of what makes Anthony Richardson special is what he does with his legs. And while Jarrett Stidham could move, he wasn't an Anthony Richardson, not even close. And I get Josh McDaniels had Cam Newton, but he had Cam Newton at the end of his career, and the Patriots signed him late that offseason. I believe they signed him in June. He was kind of a last resort. And if you look at what Josh McDaniels has done with hyper athletic quarterbacks, it just doesn't look good for me. And I think he would want someone who I guess you would describe, not you, but some people describe as a more robotic quarterback. I would say a structured quarterback, a quarterback who's going to play within the structure of his offense. Look, this is how I want the offense run. run it that way. I think with Anthony Richardson, you gotta have to let him be an artist. And I compare it to a painter. You gotta kind of let him do his thing sometimes, because that's what makes him special. With CJ Stroud is more of, he's gonna play within the structure of the offense, and I think that's what Josh McDaniels wants in a quarterback, and he would get more out of CJ Stroud than in Anthony Richardson.
And just so I could just chime in, and you guys have great points, and I wouldn't be mad if we got CJ Stroud at all or Anthony Richardson. I'm leaning towards Anthony Richardson because I look in that division and I see the Kansas City Chiefs, who I hate a lot, and and Patrick Mahomes is over there. And if we're gonna get a quarterback and we're gonna try to develop a quarterback, I want a quarterback that where I can see that it could be just as good. I know it's gonna be crazy to say, but just as good, if not better, than Patrick Mahomes. Shoot for the moon. Don't settle for some guy that could be, above average. Dak Prescott, Derek Carr-ish. I'm not going to call CJ Stroud Derek Carr, but hey, Dak Prescott seems like a solid guy that you can compare him to. I don't think he has a really high ceiling, in my opinion, compared to Anthony Richardson. I like Anthony Richardson because there's that high ceiling, there's that possibility. And you mentioned that, I know you said that Josh McDaniels likes the pocket passers. He does, but he's also worked with mobile guys too. And in my opinion, whoever it is, it don't even have to be Anthony Richardson. We got to get someone that can use their legs, because in today's NFL, we need someone that can improvise back there, that can be creative back there, because the D linemen, these D tackles and D ends, these pass rushers are running 4-3, 4-4. Like, you need someone that could make a miss. And a guy like Derek Carr that we've had for so long, he was not a slow guy by any measure. I mean, he was a guy that ran a solid 40, but it seemed like when he was in the pocket, it was like, oh my God, he was like Peyton Manning. He was not mobile. He couldn't move. We got to keep, in my opinion, hopefully, I think if the Raiders do pick a quarterback, it's a guy that can at least move, that can use, I understand, play within the offense, but if the play's not there, you got to make magic happen. And that's why I like a guy like, he's not going to be there, but Bryce Young is so fun to watch, just because, man, that dude's magic back there. But we'll see how the cookie crumbles. We'll see how it unfolds at the end of the day. But I think that the Raiders, man, if they can get just any type of talent at the end of the day, because that's what they need. They need talent. I think if they can't get Anthony Richardson or one of the guys that you've mentioned, like the cornerback Devin Vaughn, a trade down, man, getting that another second round pick. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, I know we went on a tangent. But
can I backpack off what you said, because you just made great points.
Right.
Mo's really smart, and I know that he sees it this way. But look,
I know he's looking at us like, man, these
guys are
you guys make great points.
But look, like you think of Patrick Mahomes, right? You think Josh Allen, which Josh Allen had a sub 50% completion rate when he was coming as well. You look at the Jalen Hurts, you look at Lamar Jackson's. These projects that were coming out in the NFL, all the NFL experts, all people on the analyzing all the prospects are saying, hey, these guys aren't ready. They're not the top quarterbacks in this draft. And now more than ever, to see these athletic guys with high-end upside really start to take over the National Football League. And I think Anthony Richardson's floor at the next level, with his ability to run, gives him, when you're looking at a prospect that high in the draft, you're looking for elite traits. And I think coming out even year one, say he had to go in for Jimmy Garoppolo later in the year, his ability to run and create, you're putting him up there with the Lamar Jacksons of the world already, year one, at 20 years old. So with that being said, when you look at the structure of that Florida offense, give me one skill position player that's going in the top 100 outside of the guard. You know what I mean? At times on film, Anthony Richardson was the best player, and you alluded to those last couple games of the year. He was the best player on the field, and it was evident, and he really backpacked that Florida organization, that school. I just think, I think he has to be in consideration. He has to be at least intriguing to sit there at 7 and take him.
Yeah, I've said on multiple shows, like, I would definitely consider it. But as I said, it would have to be because the two top cornerbacks off the board. My co-host Scott Branson is not an Anthony Richardson guy.
No, yeah, I know.
If you've heard him, he's not. And I've
No.
pushed back on him, and I've used a lot of the points that both of you have made. So just to put a picture out there, you guys are high on Anthony Richardson. I'm probably a notch below you. My co-host Scott Gobrents is like way down in the
Way
basement.
down.
So I hear both your points. I hear you on a lot of your points, and a lot of your points I've actually used in favor of Anthony Richardson. But I will say that if you're going to draft him, and he doesn't have to play right away because you have Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to have to clean up some of the basic things in his game. And one of the basic things is just adding touch on his passes, on short pass, so he has to clean up his footwork. His upper body has to match his lower body when he's throwing downfield. Those things have to be cleaned up right away if he's gonna see the field.
Mo's watching his film.
I can't prepare, guys. So like those things are gonna have to be cleaned up, and you're gonna have to trust your coaching staff to do that. Now, I will say, you compare him to Josh Allen. Josh Allen had 2 years of starting and had a sub 60% completion rate. Yeah. As I said, with Anthony Richardson, 1 year and showed improvement. So again, in consideration, I'm fine with that. But just understand that you're going to have to do a lot of work before he can see the field. So if Jimmy Garoppolo stinks in the first 5 weeks, don't call for Anthony Richardson. He might not be ready. He might need a full red shirt. He might need a full red shirt year. Now, he can come in on packages, but don't call for him to play right away because, again, a lot of the basic things that you expect out of a pro-level quarterback, he's going to have to clean up before he can take some live snaps.
And that being said, if the Raiders go after Anthony Richardson, it has to be everybody has to be on board from the GM, the coaching staff, because he does need some time to develop. And if it's a situation where Dave Z likes him and McDaniels is not that big, that's not going to end well. You know what I mean? So he needs some time. He needs a good situation for him to develop. But like I said, look, the Raiders can go a lot of different directions and have a great draft. That's because they need talent at the end of the day. And whoever they go with, I'll be excited about it. But yeah, man, hey, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. I know you have a lot going on. It's a busy time of the year. Can you let us know, who you picking tonight, man? Lakers.
I got some money on the Lakers. I could say that here. No one will come after me because betting is legal where I'm at, so it's all good. But I got some money on the Lakers. Dylan Brooks basically called out LeBron as a grandpa. There's no way. I'm not saying LeBron has to go out there and score 40 because he has Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves coming on. He has some guys around him where he doesn't have to score 40. But I think you're going to get a good performance out of LeBron, and the Lakers understand how important this game 3 is because, a lot of people don't notice, but the Grizzlies played pretty well without John Morant during the regular season. But I will warn people that the regular season and the playoffs are two different animals, and I think the Grizzlies are going to need their closer in John Morant. They're going to win this series, so I think the Lakers take an important game 3 tonight.
And I've got to throw in a nickname too, because I see you and Scott go back and forth on some things. I see people on Twitter reaching out to you. So I know that you're known as Midtown Mo, but I just want to throw a suggestion that I think you're misunderstood, Mo.
I like that. Because you know what? People, especially with my food takes, I don't know if you've been following it.
Yep.
Especially with my food takes. What?
Potato salad?
Warm potato salad. Gotta have the steam to come out of it.
Oh man.
Gotta have it warm. But I'm definitely misunderstood with a lot of things. And I think, sometimes I could be, I guess, too honest about what the Raiders are. And some people, people say, well, you're too critical. I used to get criticized for being too critical. This year, for some reason, now I'm too positive. It's so odd because I'm telling people to give Dave Ziegler a chance, give this regime a chance to do something with their draft class. They have 12 picks. Give it a chance before we just boot Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler out of the door. And we said it at the beginning of the show. I think they're at least going to get another year regardless of what happens this year because I don't think Mark Davis wants to do the process over again of hiring a new general manager or head coach. So they're going to get at least, in my opinion, for years. So you might as well buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And then before we let you go, I forgot about one thing we didn't ask about because we're talking about the draft because obviously it's upcoming. That's on our mind. But there is a big storyline happening that a lot of people haven't talked about. Hopefully it gets resolved soon. Josh Jacobs still not signed to a long-term deal. How do you see that unfolding? Is he coming back with the Raiders? Is he going to be traded? I'm not saying he's going to be traded, but I want to hear your thoughts. What's going to happen with Josh Jacobs moving forward?
If I had to make the call now, say he's going to have to play out the franchise tag. Now, remember, during Super Bowl week, he did say he's willing to play on the franchise tag if the Raiders build a team around him. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. So I take that as if he gets to training camp in July, late July, early August, and he looks around and he looks at this roster and he sees a 5 or 6 win team, he's going to say, you're going to have to pay me to play for this bad football team. You know, if this is going to be a bad football team, pay me the money that I'm worth because I'm one of your best guys. Now, if he looks around and sees a team that's going to be competitive in the AFC West and possibly contend for a playoff spot, hopefully, then I think he'll be okay with playing out on the franchise tag. But I will say that the running back market is in the toilet bowl right now. Miles Sanders was the highest paid running back in free agency, and he got a 4-year, $25.4 million deal. So that's less than $6.5 million per year. Austin Eckler led the league in touchdowns over the last 2 years with 38 scores, and the Chargers cut off negotiations with him. He's unhappy. There are trade rumors around Derrick Henry, around Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
There are questions about if Joe Mixon's going to be the starter in Cincinnati, and these guys are like top 6 in annual pay for running backs. So teams just aren't paying running backs right now, and I don't see the Raiders willing to pay running backs.
You don't see Josh Jacobs getting a second-round draft pick if they were to trade, do you?
It depends.
Maybe
I would
like
say
back end second.
I'd say it depends because if you're the Buffalo Bills, right?
Right. Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills let Devin Singletary walk free agency. He's now in Houston, and you don't draft the running back. You know, they have James Cook, but he's never been a workhorse running back going back to his days at Georgia. He's never had over 113 carries in a single season going back to Georgia. Yeah. I could see the Bills, if they don't make out with a running back, call the Raiders and say, hey, we're interested in Josh Jacobs. We'll give up a second for him because that team is in a win-now Super Bowl window. So if you're a win-now team that could win a Super Bowl, you're calling for Josh Jacobs if you have a hole in the backfield. So I can see a team giving up a back-end second for him if it comes down to that.
Do you pull the trigger on that trade? Because I think in this draft, like a Roshan Johnson backed up Bijan, and he had 93 attempts. He had 45 broken tackles.
I can see a possible late first, not to cut you off, Ray. I can see a possible late first too as well, because if it's like a, you know, one of these Super Bowl contending teams that just needs a running back, Josh Jacobs, late first round pick sounds like a good idea for them. You know, obviously they would have to give him a contract, but a late first for the Raiders.
I think the marriage between the two players was good scheme up front and Josh Jacobs' talent, and I think you could get a running back with good vision and not get necessarily 1,600 yards, but you can still move the football. Fine, you can still move the ball and have 1,000-yard rusher. Are you willing to give him 13 million, 14 million, or whatever that big extension is going to be?
If I'm the Bills, yes, because that's to me, that's basically my missing piece.
Yeah.
Now, if they draft a wide receiver and get a Josh Jacobs, you can win a Super Bowl with what they have.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Raiders, I'm hesitant to give up a Josh Jacobs because he's one of the leaders in my locker room, and I still have it till July 17th to work out a multi-year contract with him. So I'm not necessarily saying, here we go, we're just going to give up Josh Jacobs. I'm hesitating because I know he's one of our best players, and I know we might have to depend on him because Jimmy Garoppolo has missed a lot of games in his career, so you may have to be a run-heavy team during certain weeks. So Josh Jacobs, to me, for the Raiders, I'm pausing. But if I'm a team that's, you know, one player away from a Super Bowl appearance and I just need a running back, sure, I'm throwing a first or a late second at Josh Jacobs, and I'm rolling with that.
And I just want to go back to, I just thought about this. We talked about the first round. We talked about possible trades, trade ups, quarterbacks, who you like to take at number 7. But what we haven't talked about is if whatever plays out in the first round, who are we targeting in that second round? That's the next round where you can get a possible good starter. What position would you target?
I would target linebacker number 1. Jack Campbell is, to me, what the Raiders would need. To me, he's the pure middle linebacker in this draft class. A lot of these guys are hybrids. Some of them can probably play on the edge in a pinch, but Jack Campbell is your prototypical middle linebacker, and I think that's what the Raiders need. They need the quarterback of their defense. They don't have that. Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, Luke Masterson, Darian Butler, none of those guys are locks to even be starters. So the Raiders need to address that linebacker position. I think they will in the second round. The other spot I would look at is the defensive line, either edge or defensive tackle. I think Keanu Benton should be on the radar on day 2. Thule out of USC, I think he should be on the radar. Led the FBS in sacks in 13.5. Now, it's just not about box score numbers. He weighed in, I believe, at 266, so I think he's going to primarily line up on the edge on the pro level. He stood up at USC, but I think you can move him around. He played, I believe, from the 5 tech all the way outside. So I think he has the tools to give you that third pass rusher right away, because as we saw, Chandler Jones doesn't have it at 33 years old. And they need somebody behind to spell him or to close games, because he just doesn't have the gas. He's ended 2 of his last 3 seasons on injured reserve. So defensive tackle, edge, linebacker on day 2, specifically the second round, if you're looking at that.
Yeah, and I think this draft has those player-specific traits. Now, they might not necessarily 3rd, 4th, 5th round have the guys that plays both the run and rush as well, but I think this draft excels with the edge rush group and the guys on the inside for specific traits. And if you're drafting for their strength, I think that you can get a lot of really good football players. There's a lot of good nose tackles who are good at stuff in the run. There's a lot of pass rush specialists, specifically on the interior, that might be the 3rd down player that the Raiders are looking for on the inside. Edge rush class, I like these later round guys, to be honest with you. I wouldn't feel a ton of pressure going early and getting them, but are you of the camp that they're going to go all defense, or do you think that, you know, Josh McDaniels has had a history of taking guards in the 3rd round? Could you see them go out and address the interior, maybe that right guard to get an upgrade over Alex Bars, maybe go out and get a tight end? I don't necessarily agree that this is going to be all 12 defensive players. I don't think they're going to take 12 players in general, but I think that they're going to go out and address, get a guard, maybe get another tight end.
If you think the Raiders are going to come out of this with all defensive players, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, that's foolish.
You're foolish. And I've seen that on Twitter. I've seen defense only mock drafts. It's
ridiculous.
Spoiler, it's not going to happen.
No.
I'm actually okay with getting a guard in the 3rd or 4th round.
Me too.
You know, an interior guy. I think you have to at least give Muti and Alex Bars some competition. I'm not handing out starting jobs in training camp. I want the best competition. I want the best guys on the field. Draft the guard in the middle rounds. I had a mock draft on Bleacher Report Live where I took Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State, the tight end, because I know they have Austin Hooper, but he's on a 1-year deal. Yeah. And we all know, if you follow Josh McDaniels, the tight end position is very important to his offense. And a lot of people will go back to Rob Gronkowski. But I will say, before they left New England, the Patriots signed 2 tight ends in free agency, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Now, Jonnu Smith has been moved on to Atlanta. Hunter Henry's still there, but it tells you how important the tight end position is to Josh McDaniels. So I'm not saying that they're going to go into the season with Austin Hooper as their starter and O.J. Howard, who's been a disappointment as a 1st-round pick, and Jesper Horsted. They're definitely going to draft a tight end, in my opinion, in the middle rounds. And as I said, get some competition at guard so that you can upgrade that position and say, Josh Jacobs, we're not going to pay you, but we're going to try to make life easier for you by getting you better run blockers on the interior.
Do you think that they'll lean towards a run blocker as far as a tight end, someone that could run block as well as receive, or you could see them easily get a guy that's a pass catcher?
I think they'll go with a guy who's pretty good at both, or has the potential to be pretty good at both, because you let go of Darren Waller, as we all know, great pass catcher, but not much in the blocking game. Right. Austin Hooper, I wouldn't call him a premier blocker either. More of a pass catcher, in my opinion. Had 2 Pro Bowl seasons with Atlanta with Matt Ryan. So I think they're going to get a guy who's more balanced, that you can put him in line. He can block for the run, but he can also go out there and catch the passes. And I think, again, Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State would be my guy.
Yeah, no, I like Kraft, and I think Austin Hooper, to piggyback off that, I think he gives you good red zone option. A lot of his production came inside the 20, so I think that's really what made them move and sign him. But, man, could you see it as high as the 2nd round, possibly, that they go out there and get a tight end?
If they really, let's say one of the top tight ends slips, because let's be honest, the tight end position is not a high premium position. Right. Let's say, you know, Kincaid is available early 2nd round. Do they consider it? You know, maybe they go BPA there, in their opinion, BPA. I wouldn't be surprised, simply because of how valuable, again, the tight end position is to Josh McDaniels. It wouldn't surprise me. Raider fans probably wouldn't like that, because they're saying we don't need offense. We signed Austin Hooper. What about O.J. Howard? By the way, people touting O.J. Howard, I think that's a name-only thing. He has not come close to living up to his 1st-round pedigree. Yeah.
I liked him coming out, too. It's just injuries.
I believe he tore his Achilles or ACL one year. Just never was the same as a pass catcher after that. And he's I would say he's even more of a blocker than a pass catcher now. So,
and I don't think he's a lock to even make the roster.
Right.
Honestly.
Outside of Hooper, I don't see those guys locks. I mean, I like Horsted. I believe he flashed in preseason last year, and I've been talking him up. But he's probably going to be your tight end 3.
Yeah.
So to me, there's no way the Raiders come out of this draft without a tight end. And as you said, I think they also get a guard for their offense. So people out there hoping for an all defensive draft, pump the brakes on that. It's not going to happen.
I think it's funny how like people kind of like put all their eggs on baskets with guys that don't have no experience. And because even last year, I think it was I don't know if you guys could put the name to it, but it was an old lineman where they were hyping him all offseason. Man, this guy's been the breakout star of the offseason, played well through training camp, looked like he was going to be a stalwart at an offensive line, and then he ends up getting cut.
Lester Cotton?
Was it Lester Cotton, I think? Yeah. And you see how tides can turn real quick, especially a guy that doesn't have a lot of experience. They could easily move on.
Now, it's funny you mentioned experience, and I want to bring this up because a lot of Raider fans give me crap about, the Raiders have 12 picks, but a lot of those picks are late. And I believe 7 of them are after the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
So what I will say is, number one, Max Crosby was a 4th rounder. Nate Hobbs before he regressed, 5th rounder, right? So you can get some guys. Now it's not an easy thing, a common thing, but you can get some stars in the 4th and 5th round. The other thing I will say about experience is when you have an experienced player and he slips in the draft, and I'll use Thayer Mumford as an example because he had a lot of starting experience coming out of Ohio State. Those guys can play right away. They can make the roster because they have that playing experience. Now, for whatever reason, there may be questions about what position they play. There may have been injuries. There may have been some off-field stuff. But you can get guys with playing experience to contribute in year one, even if they're 6th and 7th rounders. So before you write off these guys, look at their resume a little bit. If they have 49, 50 starts on the collegiate level, they have a chance to play. Look at Brock Purdy. Now, I know he's an outlier.
Right.
But he was a 3-4 year starter at Iowa State, right? Trey Lance has played 9 games in the last 3 years. So it shouldn't be all that surprising that Brock Purdy's small sample sizes look a lot better than Trey Lance's sample size because he's just played a lot more football. He's seen more. So when you get some of these experienced players in the late rounds, I think that's beneficial because those guys can actually make the roster and, again, contribute right away.
And I think these later round guys, too, we see this trend in college football with the spread formation. A lot of these guys, specifically the pass rushers, they're in odd fronts. They're rushing 3 and dropping 8. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these guys are hard to evaluate as strictly pass rushers. So I think a lot of these guys who have these high-end traits, specifically speed rushers and inside pass rushers, these guys could actually even be better at the next level. You alluded to a guy like Max Crosby. Mm-hmm. Not highly sought out, coming out of Eastern Michigan. And he has another guy coming out of Eastern Michigan this year, Jose Ramirez, super high in production out of Eastern Michigan, somebody who I think the Raiders should have their eye on around that 4th round area. But do you like the depth of the back end of this draft, specifically with that edge rusher unit?
I definitely do. And there's one guy I've been talking up a lot in Isaiah McGuire out of Missouri. I think he has the prototypical body type, and I think if he adds some counter moves to his toolbox, he could be a playmaker. And I think right away he can play behind Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. And I think 3rd, 4th round, I would pick him up. But, there is some depth in this draft. Not a lot of stars. Even at the wide receiver position, not no stars there. Yeah. You're not seeing a lot of guys that, I would take him with a top 5 pick. And this is why I'm okay with the Raiders trading back at any point, because you can accumulate those picks and you get more at bats to some of the guys in the 3rd to 5th rounds who could be stars on the next level that you overlooked. So I will say that on the collegiate level, you brought up a point about what they're doing on the collegiate level and how it translates to the NFL. And I want to ask you guys a question. I know this is going back to the quarterback position. What are your thoughts on Hendon Hooker? Because as low as Scott is on Anthony Richardson, that's where I am with Hendon Hooker. And I believe that a lot of Raider fans are saying if they don't take a quarterback at 7, they can trade back into the 1st round or take Hendon Hooker in the 2nd round. And I've pushed back against that because I have questions about how Hendon Hooker transitions to the NFL, because he played in an offense at Tennessee that is not common to the NFL. That spread up-tempo offense, you don't see that in the NFL. He's not going to have those wide-open windows to throw to. He's not a full-field rear either. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to go through a long learning curve. And I might even touch on the injury or the age because, quarterbacks can play a long time. And, if they do, he's 25, going to be 26 by the end of the season. Fine with that. My question about him is, one, his transition, as I just said, not a prototypical NFL, not a pro-style offense. He's coming out of from Tennessee. And number 2, he's had ball security issues. And I'm surprised nobody's brought this up. He's
Right.
lost 7 fumbles over the last 2 years at Tennessee. I believe he's been accounted for 25 fumbles and lost 7. So fans who were like, "Oh, Derek Carr fumbles too much," but then they want Hendon Hooker. I kind of shake my head like, have you watched Hendon Hooker on the collegiate level at all? He's got some ball security issues.
Yeah,
and
when
at 25 years old with an older prospect, that's concerning to me.
Yeah, it's hard. That Tennessee, that's why a lot of people are having struggles evaluating him at the next level. And also a teammate of his, like Jalen Hyatt. You know, what does he transition? I don't think when I've scouted a wide receiver class, because I'm not blown away by any of these guys. I think like there's good wide receivers, but you alluded to it. There's not the Jamar Chases. There's not guys like that in this class. But I've never seen a guy scheme so wide open so many times in my life. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe how many times Jalen Hyatt didn't have a defender 10 yards around him. And that's the offensive scheme. So it's hard to evaluate where they go. I will say Hendon's accurate with the football. I'm just going to look at positive traits. I think he's accurate with the ball. I think he's poised in the pocket. But like you said, that scheme, the fumbles, there's a lot of questions, the injury concerns, and the whole narrative that he's third on the Raiders' big board. I'm not buying it. And I know you're not the biggest Anthony Richardson guy, but I will say this. The Raiders spent more time with Anthony Richardson than probably any quarterback prospect. That's my opinion.
Smoke screen.
Look,
don't even.
I without hesitation, I'd rather have Anthony Richardson at 7 than have Hooker in the second round. That's just me, because Anthony Richardson much younger, and I think even with the mechanics that you have to clear with him, he at least read the full field at Florida. Like I said, with Hooker, you kind of have to go back. Now I don't want to say square one, but he's got to learn how to go through his progressions. And I think that's something that people are overlooking because they're looking at the numbers. 58 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions at Tennessee.
At age 25, 26.
Right. And it's like, if he was younger, if he was 21 years old, then I could say, okay, he's going to have a long runway where he can learn some of these things. But he's going to be 26 at the end of the 2023 season. Yeah. With an older prospect, you want that guy to be more polished and more refined. And I don't think that's Hendon Hooker coming from that offense in Tennessee.
And I'll speak to what you were saying, why Raider fans are overlooking the weaknesses of Hendon Hooker. I think what they are focusing on is focusing on the other needs on the team. They're like, you know what? If we can get a top flight defensive player in the first, few rounds, and then we could steal, Hendon Hooker in the third round, which probably not possible. I'm hearing like he might be a first round pick, might be a second round pick, who knows? But I think they're thinking like they can get a talented player like that and still have, still get a talented defensive player, still address the front seven, or like you were mentioning, the secondary. And I think you make some solid points. For me, I just didn't like the age and the injuries. Like, man, you're coming in, you're hurt, and on top of that, you're already like you said, by the end of the 2023 season, you're going to be 26 years old. And that's even worse when you put that in perspective, the fact that, he's coming from an offense where he's only looking at half the field, and you're talking about a McDaniels offense where the learning curve is crazy. So whoever McDaniels goes with at quarterback, whoever that he chooses, but I just hope that it's a guy that he truly, that whole coaching staff got to be all in. It can't be, I don't even care if it's Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, or even a quarterback later in the draft. They have to be all in on the potential of him being a good quarterback on that team. I just don't think that, putting your money all in, put on Hendon Hooker when he's coming out hurt. How many times have we seen players get drafted hurt and then they don't pan out? I mean, when's the last time we've seen a player come out like at age 26, 27 and be productive in the first round? I remember there was a quarterback out of Oklahoma State. He was really, I think he got drafted by the Cowboys. Was it Oklahoma? It was
Brandon Wheaton.
Brandon Wheaton. Remember, that was one of the biggest red flags. He was an old prospect, and we've seen how that panned out. And that's two different players, but I'm just throwing it out there just to make my case. but yeah, man. Hey, Mo. Hey, we appreciate you coming on, man. Hey, especially with all the technical difficulties, man. You made it work. Yeah. I'm gonna put your stuff over here so everybody can see. We got. Hey, make sure that he's a good follow, man. This guy's he drops facts every day, 24/7. I don't know how he does it, man. He got fingers, man. Moe Moton on Twitter, YouTube, obviously Silver and Black Today. They run a good show over there with his co-host. His last name it always. Man, hey, don't let him see this. But hey, but and he has a column with Bleacher Report, man. This guy he drops facts, man. Like, so you want to make sure you check him out on all different. Hey, you over here, man. You're 24/7, man. You're going on every level, like writing, Twitter, social media, YouTube, man. Is there anything that you can't do, man? Let us know, man.
Yeah, this is why I'm blowing out mics over here, because I'm trying to keep up with everything. I mean, I by the way, just to shout it out, I have 3 Bleacher Report live shows. They're all Raider shows. 1 pre-draft show on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm going to be on live when the draft kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and I'm going to wrap up the draft, what the Raiders have done. Take a look at all the prospects they picked up on Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. So got Bleacher Report Lives, got Silver and Black today with my co-host Scott Branson. Sports Night, I'm dropping a Raider column once a week there. And Bleacher Report, I'm covering the entire league. So as a lot of people know, they see my Bleacher Report articles. A lot of them have Raider stuff included, because a lot of these, let me be really quick about this. A lot of people don't watch Raider football. So I take it upon myself to, as a national writer, to make sure I put the Raider knowledge in there for the people out there looking at Bleacher Report.
All good, man. And then before I let you go, just pick Ryan Garcia, Javonte Davis. Who you got?
Javonte Davis.
Hey, I don't watch boxing like that, so I'm going in with an open mind. But hey, man, hopefully it's a good fight, man, for a casual boxing fan like myself, man.
Can't go wrong with a guy nicknamed Tank, right?
Tank, man. But I appreciate you coming through, Mo.
Mo, thank you for coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me on, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Peace out, bro. Peace. Man, what a great show, man.
Great show, man.
Great show, man. Hey, if you haven't, like I said, go make sure to hit up Moe Moton on Twitter. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. As you can see on the screen, Silver and Black today. And Bleacher Report. He's a Bleacher Report NFL writer, man. He has crazy columns that you want to check out. Man, and I apologize. The chat, you guys are going crazy in there. I mean, I haven't really incorporated y'all in the live because we were having such a good conversation. But yeah, hey, Ray, any last thoughts? I know you gotta head out soon.
Yep. No, hey, everybody, thank you guys for pulling in. Remarkable show. Your guys' feedback. I was watching the comments are awesome. Staying engaged. Tune in with us with the draft. We would really, really love to have it. Subscribe to PharoahNFL. Subscribe to Real Raider Ray. It'll be on my channel next Thursday for the draft, 8 p.m. Even if you have it on in the background, I would love to have you guys show up with me and Pharaoh. It's going to be a really fun night. And there's big changes happening for the channel as well. And you're going to see it for the first time on draft night. So I would highly recommend you guys to tune in. We want to thank Moe Moton for coming on. Remarkable content. We love having him on, becoming a friend of the show. And he's always more than welcome to come on. But Pharaoh, I'm excited because the next time we sit down and talk, man, it's going to be the time for the draft.
Oh, yeah. Make sure, hey, we're going live a Thursday on Raider Ray's channel, so make sure to hit the notification bells, hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I know we were able to get to all the comments in the chat. Make sure to leave a comment to let us know your thoughts. This is the final preview. Next time we talk to you guys, it's going to be live at the draft, or not at the draft, but live while the draft is happening on first round. It's kicking off on Thursday, so make sure to check us out. Salute to everybody that pulled up. Salute to the nation, man. Till next time. Should I do the classic? The classic.
Hit him with the classic.
Hit him classic. All right, man.
Just win, baby.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Great Pharaoh. The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Just win, baby.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.